Kia ora, my name is Robbie and I'm another white man behind a desk, and in case you missed it, in November of 2021, a supervillain and hot sauce promoter Mark Zuckerberg announced that Facebook was changing its company name to Meta. It might have seemed like simple brand washing. After all, we all now know that Facebook and Instagram knowingly make teenage girls feel bad about themselves and platform Nazis for a profit. And when the public finds out about that sort of thing, that's when it's time to do the right thing and change your name. But the name Meta might also suggest what Facebook has planned for the future. A pivot to the metaverse. The metaverse. Like the cloud before it, the metaverse is basically just a fancy new word for the internet. The metaverse is any virtual space where you spend time with other people, and thanks to COVID, most of us are pretty used to that. Whether it's joining a virtual pub quiz online, celebrating a birthday with your whānau in Google Hangout, or trying to schedule your monthly orgy over Zoom, which is trickier than you might think. It's a challenge. Facebook's vision of the metaverse looks shit. And you might be thinking, isn't this just like Second Life? That game that launched in 2003? I mean, 1 million people play that game, which is quite a few, but it hardly changed the world. Why is Facebook betting on a new version of Second Life? And the answer to that question is Roblox. Still a confusing answer. For those of you who aren't 7, you might not have heard of Roblox. It launched in 2006, but its user base increased considerably over the last 5 years and really took off because of COVID-19. Kids were stuck inside, but they still wanted to hang out with their friends, so they turned to Roblox. As of 2021, over half of all children aged under 16 in the United States are on board. The game platform has over 164 million monthly active users, and despite the fact that Roblox graphics look like they were designed on Turing's Enigma machine, earlier this year the Roblox Corporation was valued at $41.9 billion US. And with that in mind, it doesn't seem so wild that Facebook might want to capture that market once they're too old for Roblox. So, lots of people are hanging out in digital spaces controlled by corporations, with the intent of milking cash out of those people as efficiently as possible. What wonderful news! So, with Facebook's metaverse looming on the horizon, here are some of the ways that digital spaces, like Roblox, extract money from their users. Games used to be games. You would get your wallet out, buy the game, put your wallet away and play the game. Simple. That's no longer the case. In 2012, the US company Epic Games, presumably named by a 14-year-old who wears his cap backwards and thinks liking bacon is funny, made a deal with the Chinese company Tencent. They were experts in games as a service. Games as a service are often cheap or free, but they're not very fun if you don't pay for a subscription or buy stuff within the game. When Epic Games pivoted to a GaaS model, lots of high-profile staff left the company because they're idiots who like making art instead of manipulating children to take their cash. What a bunch of cowards. For example, in the Epic game Fortnite, you start with some free emotes. Your character can wave or do the thumbs up. Wow. Cool. Impressive. So as Folding Ideas pointed out in his video on Fortnite, when more than 10 million people attend a concert by DJ Marshmello and he says, "Alright, I want to see everybody doing their favorite emo right now in this drop, let's go!" How do you think you'll feel when all you can do is wave? Because you didn't fork out real money for cool dance moves. Well, as someone who was once a 13-year-old boy, I can tell you that you'll probably feel like a povo loser that nobody will ever want to have sex with. And that's entirely the point. If you're playing Fortnite without a Battle Pass subscription, Epic Games will take every opportunity to show you what you're missing. The exciting stuff behind the paywall glints at you, and the free stuff eventually runs out, leaving you to stare longingly at the big, bright, beautiful button labelled Purchase. And this constant pressure on young people works. In 2018 and 2019, Fortnite was the world's most profitable game until it was knocked off the top 10 altogether by a bunch of free-to-play games, many of which are owned by Tencent. Research has shown that some adults are vulnerable to pressure from these free-to-play games too. The company Swerve, spelt without an E because tech, discovered that so-called free-to-play mobile games earn 50% of their revenue from 0.15% of their players. These vulnerable people are known in the industry as whales, and like the plight of real whales, the whole thing is depressingly sad. Just like Fortnite, Roblox relies on peer pressuring children to make bank. When you sign up to Roblox, the first thing you're likely to do is hit the big button at the bottom of your screen that invites you to design your avatar. You start clicking around and choosing what to wear, and very quickly the clothing items with the word free underneath start to run out. If you want to look cool, you have to buy some Robux. Which brings us to the second way these corporations make money. They've all got their own currency. Fortnite has V-Bucks, Roblox has Robux, Bathysphere has Bathobucks, Entropia Universe has Project Entropia Dollars or PEDs, Second Life has Linden Dollars, Minecraft has Minecoins, and only one of those was made up. If you're trying to get money from people in your virtual world, there are lots of good reasons it's a good idea to create your own currency. Firstly, just like adults in a casino, people are more likely to spend money if they're using tokens that don't feel like real cash. That is because humans are stupid. Interesting fact. Unfortunately, unlike a casino, these games make it hard to cash out. In Entropia Universe, you can buy PEDs with real cash, and you'll receive them in a few days. However, if you want to cash out, it can take months to sell all of your in-game assets, and once you've done that, it can take months more to actually get that cash deposited into your bank account. Not only that, there's also a minimum amount of money that you can withdraw. In Entropia, that minimum is set at 1,000 PED or $100 US. In Second Life, it's at $10 US because Second Life is pretty cool. And in Roblox, that figure is set at roughly 1,000 US for no apparent reason other than making it hard for you to take money out of Roblox. As Quentin Smith points out in his excellent video on Roblox over at People Make Games, this means that you can earn $999 in Roblox and you're entitled to $0 US and 0 US cents, which is a real kick in the teeth for people who make games for Roblox and are paid in Robux. Which brings us to the third way these companies maximize quarterly earnings. And it's not great. Child labour is a strong term and potentially a libelous one or slanderous if you're watching the video. Welcome. Thank you so much. So, let me break down what I mean. A lot of software companies have a similar model. They create a space where people can make and share content. They then monetize that content, share a percentage of that money with creators to encourage them to make more content, and then they grow their company as fast as possible without wasting money on pesky things like moderation or paying creators a minimum wage. Roblox claims to pay its creators 24.5% of any money they can pressure children to spend in their game, which is already lower than, for example, YouTube, that pays creators 55% of ad earnings. However, as we've previously discussed, they don't pay the creators in real-world money. They pay them in Robux. And not only that, it's important to remember that unlike YouTube, Roblox is first and foremost by and for children. 50% of Roblox users are under the age of 12. That means that this publicly traded company worth more than $40 billion openly makes money by taking the labor of children and putting it in front of other children in the hopes that the child labor will make these other children feel pressured to spend their cash in the child labor. And then Roblox will take at least 75.5% of the money that child labor earns. What a wonderful system. Invest now. And while Roblox creates a sense that any child can make a lot of money by making a fun game, the best way to actually get people to play your game is to buy ads for your game in Roblox using, you guessed it, Robux. And all of this has real-world consequences. While I was researching this topic, I tweeted about it, and I received this direct message from someone who wishes to remain anonymous. I don't want to admit this on Twitter for kiddo's sake as much as my own, but during lockdown last year, my then 8-year-old memorized my credit card details and spent $60 on Roblox. She's never done anything remotely like that before or since, and when we caught her and said she couldn't play it anymore and had to pay us back, she said she never wanted to see that game ever again. I think her behaviour actually scared her. I'm not usually one for moral panics, but I think there's something in some of these games that messes with kids' psyches. I've never seen her so ashamed or upset. Well, that doesn't sound like the behaviour of a kid having a fun time. It sounds like the behaviour of a shameful gambler. Oh, great! It's time for part 4. Okay, here's the 4th and final way that digital worlds take money from their users, and it's pretty straightforward. Be a casino. Most obviously, games have loot boxes that you can buy and you don't know what's in them. It could be good and it could be bad. You're taking a risk when you buy a loot box, and if it's like a Kinder Egg and the prize isn't worth anything, nobody really cares. But the items you win in video games can be worth serious real-world money. Despite that, video game items aren't covered in New Zealand under the Gambling Act of 2003. And there's no good reason for that. It's just that, like many of the things I've talked about so far, it just isn't covered because it happens online. And legislators haven't caught up. As well as casino-style gambling, there's also Wall Street-style speculation, which I've been told many times is technically different. Roblox has a secondary market where you can resell things you've bought in the game, which sounds fine, until you remember that it's real money, and you see the Wall Street-style graph tracking the rising and falling price of products, and you remember that Roblox takes a 30% cut of any transaction, and the whole thing starts to feel like an insane thing to let children do. Luckily, when you search for Roblox on Apple Arcade, you can see a helpful guide which includes this advice. Before agreeing to trade an item, consider its rarity, indicated by colour in many games, how attached you are to it, and whether you're getting something equally valuable in return. Don't hesitate to renegotiate or cancel a deal you're not comfortable with. So, obviously, problem solved there. Every 7-year-old totally understood that. There's no way they're going to get confused or scammed. Everything's totally fine. So, what should we do? Well, first things first, the simplest approach would be to ban in-game transactions from any game or metaverse experience marketed to children. Now, if your kids were playing football in a park and there was a guy standing around who occasionally took the ball away and asked for $5, you'd tell that guy to leave your kids alone. In an ideal world, it would also be free to go play in that park, but in the version of the internet we've built, there aren't any public playgrounds. There's only Disneyland charging a significant fee at the gate. The government could invest in local developers to build free games, but, they could also just end poverty so kids could afford to buy the new fun version of Fortnite where in-game purchases don't exist because they're illegal now. For adults, it's a little more complicated. Facebook has already acknowledged the expected backlash. In a blog post by Vice Presidents Andrew Bosworth and Nick Clegg, Facebook said they were going to invest $50 million into collaborating with industry partners, civil rights groups, governments, non-profits and academic institutions to determine how to build these technologies responsibly. And if Facebook and Instagram are anything to go by as products, everything's going to be fine. And we have nothing to fear. Just like social media, legislating around these online game/metaverse spaces is complicated and difficult, and I don't envy legislators trying to figure it out, except for their salaries. I do envy their salaries. They're enormous. Corporations are building new worlds with the sole function of taking money from the people who visit them. It is crucial that governments exert control in those spaces to protect people. But that's easier said than done. So, good luck, I guess. I'm going to go play some video games with no in-app purchases. I hope to see you there. Cheers.